Okay, today we're playing a game on Nepal. We're in the Platinum SR range, and we'll be playing Lucio the entire way through. We are also on the console today, by the way. Consider yourself warned. Current team composition is Reinhardt, Zarya, Genji, Pharah, Lucio, and Bridget. So, now, we are in a 6-man, and I do think that it's possible for a 6-man to make an unusual team composition work because of the coordination that you get from having a 6-man. But having said that, also, if I was feeling particularly charitable, I would describe our team comp as absolutely terrible. The obvious thing is that we have no main healer, right? But then there's other things from that, where it's like, we have Pharah comboed with the 2 healers that can provide Pharah the least amount of support, and Pharah without the support of a healer is a significantly worse hero. So there's that. But then there's also the fact that, like, we clearly have this aggressive team comp in mind, right? Like, Genji, Pharah, Lucio, Bridget. It's like, let's kill someone. But then we don't quite go all in on that, because our tanks are Reinhardt and Zarya. Why not just also go with 2 aggressive tanks? Why not just also go Winston Diva at that point, right? I guess because we can combo ultimates better if we have Reinhardt Zarya, but, like, if we're gonna go with the aggressive team comp, why don't we just go all in on the aggressive team composition? It's very bad. It's a particularly bad team comp. I tend not to harp on team composition that much, but this one is particularly bad. It's one for the record books, certainly. So, anyway, putting that aside, in the accompanying email, we have a few questions. It's been a while since that one happened, I know. Sometimes I end up holding on to Sound Barrier because I don't want to use it too early, and after it fades, have the enemy do a graph or hammer plus dragon, strike or blade, barrage, or any other combo. When is the proper time to use Sound Barrier to gain an advantage and not just react to enemy ultimates? So, to me, Sound Barrier is really good for 2 things. I don't really like using it as a defensive ultimate because it's just not as good as Transcendence, basically. Like, if you use Sound Barrier when they're doing, like, a Grav combo on you, you probably still die. The only Grav combo that Sound Barrier is really good at blocking is Grav Pulse Bomb. Because if you time it right, it does nothing rather than killing all of the squishy targets in there. But if it's, like, one of the very scary Grav combos, like Grav Dragon Strike, Barrage, you die through the Sound Barrier. It doesn't save you from those ultimates. It can, but it's quite unlikely to do so. So I don't particularly like using it like that. I think the best use for Sound Barrier is initiating a fight with it, because it degrades really fast, the shield. So the best use to me is, like, use it right, we're gonna go in right now, Sound Barrier, speed boost, amp up, let's go in as hard as we possibly can while we have this giant buffer shield on us, because that will absorb all the damage we take when we initiate the fight, which is typically when you take the most amount of damage, when you are initiating the fight. So that's what I think it's best for, is just initiating with it, because it just becomes so much harder to stop people from going in at that point. And then the other good use for it is, like, getting a second wind during the team fight, where, like, a couple of people have dropped low, but then you use the Sound Barrier and those people end up not dying. It's not quite the same as using it to save people from ultimates, because if like Reinhardt's over there getting beat to death by the enemy team just because he was out of position and used Sound Barrier, you can probably actually get him out of it just because they suddenly have to burst through a lot more hit points, and then under the shield he's being healed as well. So it's good for, like, getting a second wind during the team fight. Basically, I think it's a really good tempo ultimate, because just when the Lucio on your team uses Sound Barrier, you're like, oh, here we go. It makes your team suddenly accelerate a lot more when you use Sound Barrier. Even if you were starting to lose the fight, you can turn a fight back around if you use Sound Barrier to, like, save a couple of people who are getting low. So I think it's best used to initiate or get a second wind during a team fight when your team's starting to run out of speed and kind of gives them a second wind. I don't really like using it to counter ultimates, because if you want an ultimate that counters other ultimates, it's just Transcendence is so much better. because it's just 6 seconds of, well, I can't really die right now unless they one-shot me or coordinatedly burst me down. Or Anna throws a grenade in, but who plays Anna, right? Anna in 2018, current year. So the other question is, I also have a hard time with boops. Sometimes I'm able to capitalize on the enemy being out of position, and other times I feel like I should be able to get a good boop, but I end up hardly knocking the enemies away. Do you have any tips for aiming the boop to get the best use of the knockback? So, as I understand it, the best way to do it is to get, like, right up on them, and then, like, aim up slightly, because then they actually, like, get lifted off the ground. And if you're, like, above them, it ends up not really doing that much, because it pushes them partly into the ground rather than away. So, I think basically the advice is try to get right up on them, don't use it while you're, like, looking down at them, because then some of the knockback is downwards, which is not particularly helpful. Yeah, as far as and if they're jumping, it also is slightly easier to put momentum on them. That one I know just from playing Reinhardt, because if you hit somebody with the hammer while they're in the air, fuck, they suddenly go pretty fucking far. I remember seeing this advice for Genji players a really long time ago, where the advice was that if you end up in a bad situation and Reinhardt's swinging at you, you can start deflecting and jump, and then use the momentum from the hammer to put distance between you and the enemy team. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. So we're talking about Lucio, though, by the way. See, I think the advice is basically, like, get up on the person and aim slightly up. Try not to do it while you're, like, above the person looking down at them. And that was the only question only questions in the email. So we're going to start the game. Not a very short game today, because it's Nepal. King of the Hill games, in general, tend to not be that long, really. So we've got to go on to Shrine first. I generally dislike all of Nepal's maps except Sanctum, which I actually quite like. So Shrine is very sad to me. So we are currently in the healing aura, while no one's particularly hurt, but I mean, I guess at the same time, the other healer is Baguette. So, we gotta focus on healing up chip damage as much as possible, I suppose. So, that's pretty good boop, because we end up pushing both their healers out of line of sight of their team. Which is inconvenient, especially for someone like Moira, because then if she has to decide if she's going to use Fade to get back in range in time, but then we end up getting killed by Reinhardt. So, when did we use Amp It Up in here? Why do we do that? Well, yeah, I used it to heal that one person, but the thing is, if we only want to heal one person, we should just, like, let Baguette deal with that with the armor pack, because we're going to really need Amp It Up to actually survive a team fight. We've got a really low healing output team, so we're going to end up having to use Amp It Up in the middle of, like, the team fight to heal as many people as possible. Because that's the most healing we're getting this game, is Amp It Up. So, using it only to heal one person is going to end up leading to bad situations. Because now we have a few people that need healing, but we don't have Amp It Up, because Amp It Up's a really fucking long cooldown. So we end up just kind of getting beat to death. I know it's hard to trust the other person to do what you want them to do, but if it's only one person that needs healing with this particular comp, Baguette should deal with that, 'cause she can throw the armor pack on the one person. We'll need Amp It Up to actually survive a team fight. So we wait to regroup. We've got half of Sound Barrier built up pretty quickly, actually. Like, Sound Barrier, one of the slower charging ultimates in the game. Not really because of, like, particularly how Sound Barrier is, just more because of, like, how Lucio is, where people don't really aim that carefully. Got real hung up on that right there. So we end up using Amp It Up here to heal just Zarya. I had to just throw her armor pack on us, which is not a great use of company resources. Yeah, again, we only use that to heal Zarya, really? And it's a really long cooldown, and we're about to have a team fight. So we've gone really far up right now. We're being the front line right now, because we're not even, like, we're not even playing Lucio right now, because we're not even, like, riding on a wall or doing something obnoxious to the enemy team, which Lucio can quite often get away with. We're actually just kind of jumping around in front of Reinhardt's shield right now. So, we just overextend past our Reinhardt's barrier and get Earth Shattered as a response. And then, just to prove there's no justice in the world, we get away with it. But we should have been more harshly punished for that one. Because we, you know, what were we doing? We were jumping around in front of his shield for no reason. We weren't even doing anything tricky that Lucio can get away with. We were literally just in front of them. So our Reinhardt just landed an Earth Shatter. We've got Sound Barrier now, but we've already won the team fight. We killed 3 people almost immediately. Both of their tanks and one of their healers. So it's done. Don't need to use Sound Barrier for that. So, I don't know who else has their ultimates right now. Look at this, push tab, we're on the console, push the back button more frequently. So, because knowing what your teammate's ult charge is like is important information. For everyone in general, but particularly if you're playing like Ana or Zarya. There we go. Fuck, I couldn't think of her name for some reason. If you're particularly playing Ana or Zarya, they really like to know who has their ultimates. But just in general, check what your teammate's ult charge is at now and then. So they're coming in with Dragon Blade and Whole Hog right now, so we've used Sound Barrier in response. But Reinhardt's just killed 2 people regardless. So let's go back, see what we could have done about that one. So we could have also pushed Genji away before using Sound Barrier, because he sort of dashes past us, so we got armor on us right now, so it's hard for him to actually kill us quickly. We could turn around and try to boop him away from the team, and then use Sound Barrier afterwards. Because by booping Genji when he's using Dragon Blade tends to fuck him up also, because when you use Dragon Blade, you tend to have a pretty set out plan in your mind, and any crowd control tends to fuck the Genji up. Then, this boy comes in. Yeah, and we just kind of lose 2 people very suddenly. They didn't even look like they were about to die, really. So, unfortunately, and then we end up getting killed by Genji, regardless. We had a few ultimates to use on that one, but it still didn't work out, unfortunately. So the real thing with this team composition is that we have very bad staying power as far as team fights go. If we don't win quickly, we are almost destined to lose because our healing output is so low. This is why I also think we should have just gone all in on the aggressive comp, because we gotta win fast, or we're gonna lose. They've even got 2 main healers, right? They got Mercy and they got Ana. Like, if the fight drags out even remotely, we're gonna lose because we just have such worse staying power. English is a stupid language. I was running that one through in my mind. Like, how do you say that sentence? I feel sorry for anybody that has to learn English as a second language. It's such a fucked up language. Anyway, this is not exactly new information. So our team got Earth Shattered, which is definitely more Reinhardt's fault than anybody else's. Why did we use Boop, though? For basically no reason, and then we end up... I really wish we had Boop right now so we could push Reinhardt away from all the people he knocked down. Common problem Lucio players have is just booping people for the sake of booping them. Like, booping Lucio or Genji right there wouldn't have really accomplished anything. And then, within mere seconds of that happening, we would have liked to have been able to boop Reinhardt away from our team, since he just used Earth Shatter. Here we just run right up to a McCree, which is asking to die. He was, like, really out of position, but just running up to a McCree is kind of asking to die when you're a soft hero like Lucio, whom gets really fucked by crowd control. So there, our Reinhardt just used Earth Shatter. Didn't really hit that many people. Who did he hit with that? Just the tanks? Damn, it didn't hit the Mercy, huh? Because it kind of looked like it might have hit her from that position. Oh, no, she was around the corner, actually. So it doesn't end up actually hitting that many people. So it's like, this is like the situation where I'd use Sound Barrier. Like, alright, he's just landed Earth Shatter. He didn't hit everybody. Let's just go. Just Sound Barrier, amp it up, and go in. Because ideally, this is the last team fight as well. We're at 91%. So here's where I'm like, sound barrier, amp up the speed boost. We got rally going as well. Let's just go in there and start fucking hitting people, right? Because again, we're trying to win as fast as possible here. So we might as well just engage on the team fight as hard as we possibly can. Bridget, rather, ends up dying to McCree. Very sad. So we are just, like, holding on to the sound barrier for a real long time. I would have just rather used it to keep the momentum going on the initial engage. As we can see, ends up not really mattering. We kind of just use it in the middle of the team fight. We don't really use it to gain, like, a second wind or anything, but, like, ideally, this is the last team fight, so I'm just like, might as well just throw the Earth Shatter on the ground to try and make sure we win the team fight. And we win the team fight. Hooray! So as we can see, there isn't very much time left on the game right now. I think it is actually mathematically impossible for us to lose. Because I was going to be like, so we just get, like, fully wrecked 2 rounds in a row? I don't think that can mathematically happen in 5 minutes anymore. I don't know the exact time it takes to tick up to 100, but it'd be pretty... We'd have to get stomped pretty fucking hard at this point, wouldn't we? So we're off trying to do Lucio stuff, but then we kind of mess it up. Oh no. Now we are waiting in the corner. So, we keep peeking over. We're pretty all in on this gambit. We keep just, like, peeking over to kind of which could give us away a little bit more if we're doing that. But, also... This is the big thing, though, is that, remember, our healing is so bad with this team composition. We can't really try and do cheesy Lucio stuff where we, like, camp a corner forever waiting to push people in, because our team actually needs us to heal them. Because just Bridget ain't gonna cut it. We actually have to, like, stick to our team and heal them as much as possible with this comp. Because Bridget ain't going to be able to keep up, especially during the poking and prodding phase, where she probably can't get Inspire going consistently. We'll need to actually be there to heal the chip damage instead. Though again, with this team composition, ideally we just engage as hard as we possibly can, which has gotten even less likely because our team comp has just gotten incredibly more sedentary, if you look at it, right? We now have Orisa Soldier. So we have now a team composition that wants to poke and prod at the enemy team, but our healing output, and a Bastion, but our healing output is extremely low. At almost the worst it could possibly be. The worst it could possibly be would be Zenyatta Bridget. Because it's like, well, y'all better take damage in a nice, orderly fashion, right? Because you're going to have to take a fucking number to get healed right now with that comp. At least Lucio and Bridget is AoE, right? If it's Bridget and Zenyatta, don't take damage if somebody else is damaged, okay? We ain't got a lot of healing to go around. This is a very finite resource. So we do almost have sound barrier built up right now. We are sitting around in the healing aura when we don't need to, which we would like to keep to an absolute minimum, which is another reason that this team comp is bad for Lucio, because the idea is to be in the speed boost as much as physically possible. But if our team comp has really low healing, we kind of can't sit in the speed boost as much. But we still want to keep it to an absolute minimum. So, we're trying really hard to push Orisa off the edge. If she's used Fortify, just, like, go away and come back again, because Fortify lasts longer than you think it does. I've been baited by Fortify enough times, so play Reinhardt like, I'm gonna wait for this to end so I can pin her. It's almost over, I feel it in my bone. I know how long the cooldown is, and yet I still sit there like, it doesn't last that long. I can just sit here and tank it until it goes down, and then I can pin her. Never happens. It lasts so much longer every time. Just, like, leave and come back again as Lucio. Because Lucio does have the ability of being able to disengage and re-engage quite quickly. You know, which is a unique feature for a lot of heroes, but particularly for a support. So, Lucio's a weird hero. He's, like, almost, like... We've got a few heroes that are, like, hybrids, right? Like, Bridget, I think, is the clearest hybrid hero, because she can, like, comfortably be an off-tank or an off-healer, right? Like, she can do both. But then we got, like, Mei, who is kind of a DPS and kind of a tank, right? And then we got Lucio, who is kind of an off-healer, but also kind of a DPS. Some heroes, very awkward to quite categorize where they lay. So, especially if you watch a lot of Lucio players out there who just... It's like Lucio players are playing their own fucking game. You know, when you see the Lucio... Like, when you're on fucking Control Tower on Lijiang Tower and you just watch the Lucio spinning around on the roof, it's like he's playing his own fucking video game up there, right? Just looking down at the fight happening under him while he's playing Jet Set Radio up on the rooftops. Like, Lucio players just don't give a fuck, man. They're just off doing their own thing. Always. They're off just flanking people, sitting outside your spawn, ganking people. They're on fucking Sanctum. They're still up there on the fucking rooftops, just like spinning around at the top. Like, what are you doing? You're accomplishing nothing. I'm trying to kill the Pharah. How the fuck are you expecting to do that? It'll work out. Don't worry about it. Also, when I sound barrier from the roof, it's gonna be sick as long as they don't shoot me during the 12 seconds I'm falling to the ground. I do think it would be cool if sound barrier scaled based off how high Lucio fell. It would be like an objectively worse ultimate, because like Lucio is one of the heroes most fucked over by the fact that if you crowd control him, he loses his ultimate, right? So if you were suddenly encouraged to jump from as high as possible to use it, that would be like a really bad nerf. That would be definitely not good for Lucio, balance-wise, but it'd be sick, wouldn't it? If you jump from the fucking top of Lijiang Tower to the bottom, and it's like a fucking 3,000 health barrier on everybody. Wouldn't that feel incredible? Or just like decays slower or something instead. I think it makes more sense for it to be a bigger shield. By extension, I suppose that would also decay slower. That'd be sick, though. That would be sick. And if you get to do it, fuck, I get to win the fight, basically. Because I've suddenly gave my whole team like a Symmetra barrier, right? The new Symmetra barrier, but personal for every single member of the team. Wouldn't that be crazy? That's why I'm not allowed on... That's why I'm not allowed to be on any kind of balanced team. Because I'd be like, yeah, but it'd be sick, though, wouldn't it? It would be sick, you're right. Let's do it. Let's just see. What's the worst that could happen? But it would be sick. There'd be incredible highlights. So we're playing the video game, by the way, currently. Baguette's just like throwing her armor pack on us for like no reason. We're sitting in the healing aura when we don't need to be. Now fights breaking out, so we're going to need to be in the healing aura, but we're also not with our team right now because we're still trying to do, you know, Lucio plays, basically. Sitting waiting to push people in the edge as soon as possible, as soon as they come around the corner. But again, our team comp is like, no, like, it's okay to do that as Lucio typically, but typically if you're playing Lucio, the other healer's a main healer, not Bridget. So, as you may infer from the way this team fight's been going, looks like we're probably going to get away with it. Here comes Roadhog. Unfortunately, the Rudy Tooty Whizbang Scooty slows you down while you're using it, so Fatboy Slim got even fatter and couldn't get there in time. So we get to win the game. We would have probably won the game anyhow. Looks going to be when we push those two people in the pit. I do think that the play of the game algorithm favors environmental kills a little too high. Because it's like two people getting pushed in the edge is not really particularly impressive. But it almost always gets the play of the game if you push two people in. Almost always. So, what stood out the most? We held sound barrier for a very long time, that much was true. We used Amp It Up a few times for not great reasons, just using it to heal like one person when we're gonna really need it for team fights. In general, like, you don't want to use Amp It Up to heal one person anyway, unless like you really badly don't like need that person to be alive right now. But you don't really want to use Amp It Up to heal one person, and ideally you've got a main healer with you, which is probably Mercy. She can heal one person a lot better than you can, as Lucio, so really don't want to use Amp It Up to heal one person. the point is to use it again on as many people as possible, because Amp It Up is actually quite a lot of healing, especially if you can get it on 6 people. And then you also can still get the speed boost off the Amp It Up as well if you change back, so you don't really want to use Amp It Up on one person. Especially with how long its cooldown is. Amp It Up is actually a very impactful ability, because it just makes Lucio's auras so much stronger. And as a result of being a quite strong ability, it has a very long cooldown. It's almost as long as, like, it's like one of the longest. It's up there with, like, Biotic Field. And, like, obviously Resurrect reigns king of long cooldowns, but Amp It Up is up there as far as cooldowns go. So we really don't want to use it for, one person if at all possible. I've repeated myself a good 9 or 7, 12 times. I think we got that point across. Also, just like signaling the healing aura when we don't need to be. Lucio is not strong because of his healing. Lucio is strong because of the speed boost. So we really want to be in the speed boost as much as possible. It's like the thing that's strong about Lucio. So it's what we're really trying to leverage. Common mistake Lucio players make, particularly when they're learning how to play the hero, is they sit in the healing aura all the time. Like, they need an excuse to change to the speed aura. The speed aura should be your default, and you need a reason to change to the healing aura. So that's what's so strong about Lucio. So, that's what stood out the most in this game anyway. So thank you very much for watching if you did. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you felt I answered your questions from the email inadequately, please let me know, and I will try to expand further. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us, and I hope you found the video helpful.